Welcome to the Raw Spotlight podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders in the B2B space and share their unique stories. Let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. I'm Victor Huynh, your host for the Raw Spotlight, a podcast where we spotlight leaders from B2B businesses and community partners as we share their bold strategies and inspiring stories. In past episodes, we've welcomed innovators like Jackie Dilfer from BFC Funding, also community people like Dylan Feek, our city manager in my hometown of the city of Monrovia. And today's episode is brought to you by Ready Artwork, your trusted partner in B2B digital marketing. And we create and craft tailored strategies to help your organization grow and thrive long term. At Ready Artwork, we combine data-driven insights to be creative and design to boost your online success. Our experts specialize in SEO, digital advertising, web development, and email marketing, helping you unlock new opportunities in the digital world. To learn more, visit readyartwork.com. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Matt Kovacs, the president and lead strategist at Blaze PR, a nationally recognized public relations agency celebrated for its standout work across both consumer and B2B sectors. With over 20 years of experience, Matt is widely respected in his strategic, results-driven approach and balances creative flair with deep media and industry insights. Under his leadership, Blaze PR has executed award-winning campaigns for consumer brands such as Monster Energy, Mary's Gone Crackers, Chronic Tacos, and Electrolyte, leveraging high-impact media placements, influencer collaboration, and experimental activations. This expertise in consumer PR aligns perfectly with Blaze's reputation for creating culturally relevant and attention-grabbing campaigns. Equally adept on the B2B side, Matt has helped elevate brands like Boxed Water, Ralph's Groceries, and Biohm, B-I-O-H-M, Health, transforming complex messaging into accessible narratives that resonate with trade, investors, and retail audience alike. His work has been recognized with honors from PR Week, Los Angeles Business Journal, and the Communicator Awards, a testament to his leadership in the field. Notably, Matt was named PR Executive of the Year at the 2015 PR World Awards, signaling his long-standing influence and impact in PR. So get comfy, because this episode promises to offer a fascinating mix of strategy, creativity, and real-world insights, all through the lens of one of PR's most dynamic leaders. Welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, awesome. It's been a while. I know we collaborated, quite a few times in the past. So when we had the opportunity, I jumped at it. I think this was it's going to be a great interview.
No, I think it's fun. I think what's interesting too is as you were going through it, I was thinking of some of within that crossover of consumer and the B2B PR, because obviously it's evolved a lot since we worked together, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for brands when they look at it, because everyone wants, I want to get on TV, I want to get on, get in the LA Times. But there's a lot of the foundational work that can be done from a B2B standpoint in a lot of those elements that I think is really, an opportunity for brands.
Yeah. So Matt, let's start with your journey, right? How did you first get into PR, and what inspired the direction you've taken with Blaze?
Sure. So I went to USC and graduated from with a communications degree. This was prior to the Annenberg School, PR program now that everyone has. So mine's a little more old school, and it was, to be honest, and I've talked about this recently, where it was much more about theory. You learned about interpersonal communications and really, getting consensus and the elements around it of really just how this could work. Thought more of the long term, or even like an internal communications officer. So after college, worked in just sports PR and sports marketing at an agency in Chicago, and then I had the opportunity to work for Levi's, which back in the day was split in two, and their East Coast operations were in Boston. So a lot of the communications around from a corporate standpoint of a heritage brand, but at the time was still sort of figuring out where it wanted to be. And then was there for a couple of years, and then the hat retailer Lids was sort of incubated out of the Boston area, so I was able to join that. And there were 8 stores when I started, and when I left, there were 500. Wow. But I learned a lot. I mean, you were doing everything from obviously the marketing, the PR, merchandising the stores, like going in to, do the photo shoots there was only
Wow.
two of us in marketing, but there was so much of that, the PR, because at the time was when Spike Lee would wear the red Yankees hat, Fred Durst had the red Yankees hat. So headwear exploded. And so the PR around that and just really being able to tap into that, narrative and the storytelling you could do, because headwear was always just thought of like, oh, just grab a hat. Like there
Right.
was so much we played with, and also bending the brim and the way you do it and the sticker on it and all those aspects. So we can geek out on it all day, but from there I wanted to get back to Los Angeles, so was able to come back and work for an agency. I was there for about 10 years, and then I joined here. It's been 15 years now, Blaze. So it's been nice. It's been Blaze had been acquired, and there was some opportunities, and they recruited me over. So I've enjoyed being able to build this into much more of a national footprint. And we do again brands that are challenger brands, brands that are either national or aspire to be national, and really work with them in a way that you're helping them where you can make a difference. And we get it that at the end of the day, everything's about sales. What are you
Mhm.
doing to drive traffic, consumers? How can I get more distribution? What could I be doing? And I think those are some aspects that we look at it from more of a strategic PR approach.
Mhm.
And a lot of agencies we compete against are just all the horror stories of they think more of like that publicist mentality of I can get you a mention in the LA Times where or in whatever page 6, and is that mention worth the salt for all the work where you would rather get a larger article or an interview or a podcast or whatever that's going to make sense for the brand, because PR now it's all about the currency of content that you can then utilize it for, again, be it advertising on Facebook, seen in these shows, or if it's on LinkedIn to be able to tell that story, or even just in your newsletters. So I think we look at it from that approach. And in the team, we have two offices. We're in Santa Monica and Santa Barbara, and
Mhm.
we have just about 18 people in general, or in total. And then in general, what we try and do is work collaborative through the offices and through the teams. And I think that's really where clients and people that we engage with understand that it is that team approach. I think we look at it as that extension of the team. And again, we've won a lot of the best places to work for PR Week and stuff like that. But I think the work really comes through, and that's part of I think the narrative through that is my journey of working in all these other places to really be able to create a environment where it is you're learning, but you're teaching and educating clients, but then you're also again the results that at the end of the day we have to get the results for the brands, and I think that's been really fun to help brands grow.
Okay. So I think you touched a little bit on this already, but what do you believe sets Blaze PR apart when it comes to supporting B2B brands? And
Yeah,
how has your approach evolved over the years?
I think what's interesting too for B2B brands, I think sometimes, and I think maybe it's the players involved, sometimes they're shy. They're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't want to, they're almost embarrassed to tell their story.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit more of that education. And there's other factors that really, make sense, because for them, it's almost and we talked about the foundational work.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they have a story that's really, compelling to journalists,
Mhm.
and really that they have a connectivity with the trade media, that they're capitalizing when they go to trade shows, that they're really, they have a press kit. There's a press room that they're, making sure the stuff's in there. They're making sure they're setting up booth appointments with media, that they're ready to have those conversations. So we'll do a lot more media training, because in many ways, and you touched on it with like Biome and Box Water, there are nuances that aren't like other brands. So you really need to make sure that's conveyed. So they're not perceived as a Me Too brand. They really are creating their own niche. And then I think from a B2B standpoint is really, really connecting with buyers, retailers, especially online now, the different, buying groups,
Mhm.
because they're looking at as, okay, where am I going to find this being to be able to be sold? But also where does this make sense within, their portfolio and how they can really stand out? So there's a lot of those elements, because it's not really at that point, it's more about selling to the potential salesman. So you really have to have a longer narrative. The press releases for them are probably 2.5, almost 3 pages. Their boilerplate is, even longer, because you're telling such a longer story that
Mhm.
needs to be transferred. And this needs to be almost a sales document as well, versus consumer PR. I mean, pitches now, if you get into like 3 or 4 sentences, that's too long, because all the media are on their phones and they can only look at it. They want to get that story really quick. And I think the other thing is, from a B2B standpoint, B2C, you rely many times on the product. Send the product to Media X, they'll review it, they'll talk about it. It gives them that hands-on feel. With B2B, it's much more theory and much more that approach of why this is different. So you need a lot more data, a lot more of the be it white papers, and also the validation from either peer groups or other aspects that really can help, convey that story.
Yeah. The most important, the most interesting thing you mentioned was the personalities, right?
Hmm.
I
Oh
think,
yeah. Yeah, it really is. Because many times, like for both of, well, all right, so let's say biome, they have a scientist,
yeah,
that Case Western, he has the largest collection of fungi in the world. Like there's things that are interesting, but he just thinks of it like this is what I do. Like there was no in getting them to really open up and be that because the biggest thing in media trading is you need to engage with the reporter.
right,
You're excited about the product, you know it best, but that needs to come across when they can be much more clinical and, to explain it in a way that you're like, I walked in on a college, presentation.
right.
So I think that's a big part is really, it's almost hyping them up and getting them feeling like, okay, I'm okay with this. And many times they're better in person than over the phone or over Zoom. Like when they see people in person because they're used to that and they can exchange like here's what, the elements are that it has a much more a deeper feel on the emotional level.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking back, B2C versus B2B clients. And, we have scientists, like really, really smart people, and
Mhm.
they hate to be in front of a camera.
Right,
You know?
right. But no one knows it better than them. So it
Right.
really is getting them. And in many ways, you're like I said, hyping them, but you're also like tricking them into no, this is important. Pretend it's you're talking to a class or
Right.
you're talking to investor group. How would you? Because at that point, when they know, hey, I need to be on because this could be funding, this could be elements.
Yeah.
The understanding the value of that and where that can go. A lot of the once the content happens, that's where they also sort of don't understand at that point because they're not the ones controlling their LinkedIn or any of that stuff. But
Mhm.
it's a way to really understand that there is a whole narrative and also a journey that this content can go on.
So I guess one of the questions is how do you translate something like scientific or something kind of dry and boring
Mhm.
into something that's media ready?
I think there's, especially these days, there's a lot of things you can do with charts and data, even if it's in a video standpoint that can be, floating and flying and, giving it that almost, MTV feel where the
Yeah.
data comes in at you at different angles. But I think that's that storytelling. It's a way that obviously the data has to be, compelling. And then from that point, it's really a way to present it that is, and we always look at it as, can it have, twofold? Can it be edited where it's the B2B, but then also when we're ready for B2C, this data and the way this video performs that we can then edit and use it in that and utilize it in that way. But I think that's interesting in and of itself because you hit it on the head. You're trying to get these people out of their shell, but
Hmm.
also get the data out and for them to understand how that data can really connect with people in a way, not just here's the lab, here's the X and Y, here's give us what this data means. Because for some of them, again, the biome's a great example of the and they do gut tests. They have a lot of data that they get, but what does that mean and how does that translate for sales, retailers, buyers? How can they then take that storytelling into a sales presentation and platform?
Yeah. And I would say, a lot of B2B are a little bit more conservative when it comes to marketing, especially PR, right?
Yeah.
How do you help them differentiate themselves to claim a leadership position, right? How do like if I were a B2B owner right now and you would have to convince me, hey, you need PR,
Yeah.
how would you do that?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one thing what we try and do is you look at it from past experience, so our case studies, and we talk a lot about it. Of we have a track record of brands that worked with us. We raised their profile and they got acquired. Honest Tea with Coke, Kavita with Pepsi, U Theory, which is a leading supplement brand, collagen and etc. Jameson Labs purchased them, and a lot of those B2B tactics and strategies of using the chief scientific officer, getting the CEO in front of people, getting them on panels, getting, through all those elements help to raise the brand and raise that where they, in many ways they were bigger than, perceived. And
Right.
so that made it appealing for them to be acquired. So it's really showing that again, what we've done, how we've done it, not opening the kimono all the way, but saying, hey, you should hire us because here's the things we could do. And here's what you as a brand could or should do.
Mhm.
And then also we look at it too, is that we position it where we're like senior boutique in that we've all come from the larger multinational firms. We have the track record, the experience, but you're not working with people that are learning on your job, on your account too. That, you have people that we've done this, trust us. And I think those are elements. The other thing is always references, call these other scientists, call these other people we've worked with, and also call the media. We have really strong media relationships. And we've said, hey, call, here's reporters. You're not going to be interviewed, but you can speak to them and say, hey, what's it like working with Blaze? What can I expect? And even, that's where it's great for them to start to have those, touch points to understand, okay, this is different than I feel comfortable as much as they can be, but I also understand where it's going from, the potential.
Yeah. So I guess overall, what do you think the role and executive thought leadership plays in modern B2B PR, right? How do you position the founders or C-suites for credibility? Is it like the main tactic, or is it, how important is it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the main tactics. I think because, we live in a society now where, people do want to see, okay, who's making these products? Who, what is do I believe them? Do I believe that they're making something or a part of something that's going to help me or help society? So you want to, be able to understand that and also get a feeling that they're credible and, that credibility can carry the brand through. And I think that's something that why we invest a lot of time in media training and to make sure they're comfortable and they're able to convey that. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be the next, what is it, Elizabeth Holmes, and you put everything out there, and you really have to have those elements out where you feel comfortable, and that not only just the CEO, but to your point, the chief scientific officer, maybe it's a operations person, really looking at it of elevating the brand in ways because there's enough media now. It's interesting. Media is so fractured. There's so much media.
Right.
So, you know that you're not going to capture everyone anymore, but if you can get it in enough places, you're going to hit the right aspects. And then it's on the other side, when we collect all this coverage, it's packaging it in a way that the brands themselves can utilize it. The sales guy can send it out to buyers and retailers.
Mm-hmm.
The ingredient supplier that they use, they can say, hey, look, we've talked about your part of our team. So there's ways that it's important for them, and it gives them that currency to share it in a way that says, we're out there and people are talking to us. So there's ways that it gets raised.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk about tools and technology, right? Especially AI, the 800-pound gorilla.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
How are you seeing tools like ChatGPT and PR automation or even media monitoring with AI, reshape how agencies like yours operate?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because obviously, we're using it. We're learning as everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's elements that it's made things easier, ways to craft different quotes or different, elements around a launch and to really get, feedback and consensus on, releases and then have it, go through and really see where there's some gaps and understand that. I think the other thing is now, which is crazy important and scary, is the importance of the AI search and making sure that we're optimized, we're going after the more higher, domain elements, because in that regard, that's where AI is starting to take precedence in the the coverage in general. So I think that's an important aspect for us, and we really think about that. And we do a thing called the impact index. So we have for any piece of coverage, there's 5 things that a client approves ahead of time, but we walk through. Do you want a quote, a photo, a call to action, your website, whatever it is, because those are going to help in general. And I think those are aspects that help within that searchability. And then I think also for AI, it's interesting to see what competitors are doing and what AI finds and thinks. And, depending, Chat, Gemini, whichever one you're using,
Right.
It's really interesting how it looks at it holistically versus the normal research. But also, I think, a lot of the software and a lot of the things we, utilize and subscribe to, which is a lot of, that's the difference too over the years from PR, is that you can now subscribe and find out, okay, what's the sentiment of this coverage versus our competitors and aspects. And AI has really helped us in that regard as well, to really look at it for the whole category, where I think that saves a lot of time. You're able to have, I think in many ways it makes, agencies and the teams look smarter or be smarter, even, the more it's absorbed.
Yeah.
But I think that's important because we look at it because, again, a lot of our clients are the challenger brands. They may only have, again, 1, 2, maybe 3 people in marketing.
Right.
The more we can help them be smarter internally, and also obviously coverage and results, and being able to have the brag book to share with everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's how we've tried to utilize it as a tool. Are there mistakes? Now, do you trust everything it says? No, but you have to, it's another aspect of let me look at this and then, garner what I can out of it. But I think it's an important factor for everyone, and it's made I think for many people, it's not a crutch, but it makes things more efficient in a way because, the worst thing is staring at the blank page, having to write a press release or put under. And there's things that's already out there, or even, there's something, oh, I read, 10 years ago about this brand, and you can put enough, of those breadcrumbs in there and it'll find it and give you that, narrative that you're looking for, which I think is really, important, especially for, again, we're a small but mighty firm, having, the that many people from a boutique size. I think it helps just in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the right person's hands, it's great.
Yeah. It's like Spider-Man. It's like do good. Yes. Stay, you can do good for people.
Yeah. So are there any emerging tech platforms or tools you've adopted, that you guys deal with and use on a daily basis?
I think what's interesting, it's the tools, many of them we've already been using, but how they've adapted to AI, like Meltwater is a great example, Critical Mention, all those things that help us from the search and from the sentiment, but how they're evolving. And I think what's been great is they offer, obviously they want you to re-sign every year, but they're offering more of the training and the tutoring and the tutorials within their software to be able to tap into the AI portion. Same thing with Precision and PR Newswire. There's aspects because obviously, it's an SEO game still at the end of the day. What are ways that it's going to help you stand out and maybe go broader and have that reach? And the fact that again, we've already utilized them. So it's not like learning a whole new, tool set and understanding it. But I think it's something that, we're just learning and tapping into as it happens, which is really, it's interesting, important, but it's also, again, for us, it's invaluable.
Yeah. We are seeing the same thing in digital marketing, right? Even if you don't want to, if you don't go out as a tool, you're using it, whether you like it or not, right? People are integrating it in their software to add value.
I can remember maybe, again, 5-6 months ago, as it was trickling and expanding, and people, there were groups that were like, "Oh, I'm never using this. I don't trust it. I don't like it." And then the other day, one of them sent something to a group of us, and I didn't do. I wish I was the one, but someone called out and said, "Hey, weren't you the one 5 months ago that you were going to be the curmudgeon and never use it?" And it's more funny to see how, to your point, even if you don't want to, you are. It's out there, and you have to jump on it.
Right. It's coming whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Either get on the train or it's going to run you over. Yeah.
Yeah. But so on the flip side, are there any limits when it comes to AI, that you guys have in place as an organization? We will not use it for certain things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Because of still the inaccuracies and the assumptions that it makes and the just flat out just incorrectness more than anything else, it's important. We've obviously, interns always find a way and they want to be, get stuff done. We've had a number of interns that have turned in assignments and, elements where they've used AI and they're trying to, they just hurry up and send it. They're done for the day. But, it makes AI will make up everything. Here's a list of 10 newspapers in a city. And these things don't even exist. They're making up just all these falsehoods. And I think that's a factor around it. I think also what we've said is not, you can utilize AI, but make sure two other humans have read what you're about to, send or submit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, because, as AI will add, 5,000, they have like their own thesaurus. They'll add all these extra flowery language that just doesn't make sense, especially in the B2B side. The last thing you want to be is flowery, because then, that media and, trade media looks at it like, are you trying to gloss over what's actually happening? It looks like you're trying to hide something. And I think that's an important factor when we use it. So it's that's like a safety net we put in place.
Yeah.
You can't just send it off until other people have read it, because they'll sniff it out. You can totally tell if it's, AI driven.
Yeah. And AI sounds so sure, right? They're telling you.
Totally. And the politeness, that's what I've seen now. A lot of the, the aspects around where stand-up comics are starting to talk about it. How like everything you say, it's like, well, thank you. This is a great question. You are so welcome. Yes. And it's more like, come on, just give me the answers, because that I think sometimes takes away from it. And you can tell if someone just forwards something and they didn't take out the thank yous and the pleases
and the bullets, the emojis,
yes,
the check marks.
Yes. Yep. Oh, I know. And it's funny when people don't realize it, because they're not as savvy or they haven't used it as much.
Right.
Understand, you can tell if it's coming from Gemini, from ChatGPT, all those things, to be able to check it out.
Yeah. All right. So for B2B companies that are just starting out, right, with PR, what is a common mistake you see, and what advice do you offer to help them avoid it?
I think it's interesting in that, and this goes really for everyone, but B2B will say when to start PR.
Hmm.
So that's always their thing. They might have the germ of the idea, they've gotten their funding, or they're starting to build a company, and then they want to tell the world. And we always talk about, and it's tough. Again, do we want to take every client on? Sure, when they call you, but it's something that you can say, are you ready? Again, we can start to do the press releases, the buy all the background, all the foundational work you need. But once that press release goes out, or once we pitch a reporter, are you ready to talk about it? Or do you have your strategy in place? Do you have a 3 to 5 year plan that you can start to, navigate through? So it becomes a timing issue. And then also, what are the, within your category, are there markers in time that we should be aiming for? Are there trade shows? Are there launches of certain elements? Are there, earnings calls for some potential competitors that you want to try and either, draft or ride the wave on? So it's important to go through that. Otherwise, we've had it happen. You go out, you start talking, and the reporter X replies back, says, love to talk to him. And then the brand is like, whoa, time out. We're not ready to talk to anyone. We still are, getting everything in a row.
Yeah.
And then it's that awkward discussion, not only with the brand, but with the reporter, like, hey, this is like embargoed. Can you not run with it? Can we really, give us another month? You'll be first. Those types of things. So it's really for the brands to understand that once you say go, it happens.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is what we talk about is let's get some of the some easy wins, put it on the wire. Let's get some stuff going so that they have other links that can populate their websites, their social media, so they don't look so much of a new, baby company. Or even on the B2B side, if they haven't done PR yet, they haven't even thought of that. Like their website doesn't even have a, news section or anything. Making sure all those, the tactical tools are ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's more of that. And again, a lot of that is just the, smoke and mirrors to make sure everything's good. But that's important because media will be the first ones to call it out. Like, oh, is this your first time ever, sending a press release out or pitching media? And hey, we're 10 years old and you've never sent anything. Not that it's a red flag. It might be more of a beige flag of like, okay, what's going on? But I think those are things we really try and help navigate and engage for them. And it's been funny too. Some brands like that, different players within the company, their LinkedIn is much more robust and stronger than the actual company. The company hasn't posted on LinkedIn in, like 8 months. They look like they've been stagnant. That's where, again, reporters are just like people. They go to those social accounts and they want to see what you've been saying out into the world. So I think those are important factors that we try and make sure are in place before we start outreaching.
Awesome. So a lot of foundation work and a lot of things to think about before you start PR.
Yeah. And it's stuff that, again, some of it can be obvious, but if no one's called you out on it, or it's what is it, like the shoemaker's kids? They're worried building everything else, but you have to have the back end ready for the support of the brand.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one last question, and before I ask it, I want to point everyone to your website. It's blazepr.com.
Yeah.
Okay, blazepr.com. Okay. So last question is, what is your personal favorite tool or software that you find essential for your day-to-day?
I think for, I'm going to cheat and say two. One is the output and the input. One is with Cision, again, to be able to send out media. That it's great, robust database of different medias throughout the country. Especially we have so many brands that are launching and or expanding. So all of a sudden we'll get a call, hey, we're in, Boise, Idaho now. And we want to reach all the media and influencers there. We have softwares that you put in Boise, you put in what you're looking for, and then we can get the output of being able to pitch them. And then on the flip side is what's coming inbound, because there is so much information and it's so fractured and media that gets picked up and gets syndicated. We have so many of the collection tools that can tell us, where it is, the numbers. It's not, in the old school ways, it was, Yahoo is what 1 billion people go to Yahoo. But not everyone read that article that got in there,
Right.
But there's the software now can say, hey, via the traffic in, historical data, that this probably was read by, 20,000 people, which again, that's a good number. It makes sense. It's not the fake, you have 12 billion impressions, but knowing that if you had 12 billion, you'd be, the biggest brand in the world. So I think those are elements that we really rely on. And that it also, because PR is that sort of gray science within the marketing matrix.
Right.
It's hard to measure. It feels good though. You want to have it. It's the brand awareness. It's the third-party validation. So, you need those aspects out there. There's many times we get hired in B2B and B2C. We, get the call, you pitch, you get hired. And it's, well, are we ready? And well, the CEO just told us to hire a PR agency, but you have to tell us what we do now. So it becomes that type of aspect, which is great. And we love to educate and we hold their hand. But I think those tools help us to validate, like, hey, this actually got picked up and it's whatever it is, 1 million people saw it, which, over 50 or 60 outlets, that makes sense. And that's a real number that everyone can digest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you guys take it a step further and try to quantify the work you do.
Yeah.
Versus like in the past, old school PR is just like, oh yeah, we got you 1 million impressions, and then everyone's just scratching their head. So what did we pay for?
Or you go even older school, when it used to be the article, you'd have to measure it. You'd get out a ruler and say, okay, it was, again, 4x5. The ad copy, if you had paid for that ad, it would have been, whatever, $500.
Right.
The circulation was, whatever, 100,000.
Right.
And the pass around rates like 2 or 3. Like that was really, really voodoo math. And then you look at it, and then everyone's like, well, it feels good. I think the only difference was it was tangible. So people would hold the paper and be like, okay, we're in this. I know that this got delivered to everyone's house.
Yeah. Like billboard, freeway. How many cars go by, and then that was successful, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. But for both creative and strategic sides of PR has been very, very valuable. To our listeners, if you want to learn more about Matt, are you active on LinkedIn, Matt, or any?
Very active. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So Matt J. Kovacs is my handle there.
Okay, I'll make sure it's included when we push this out. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the Raw Spotlight with anyone who would benefit from these insights. Until next time, I'm Victor Huynh, and thanks for listening to the Raw Spotlight.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Raw Spotlight podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.